and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to this meeting of the Buncombe County Board of Education. We have two members that are joining us via Zoom. That is Max Queen and Cindy McMahon. And at this time, I am calling this meeting to order. And would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? On here.
Color guard, attention. Carry colors. Forward, march. Color guard, halt. Present, colors. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Order, colors. March.
I ask that you remain standing for a moment of silence. Seated. At this time, I am looking for the approval of the agenda, and I am asking that we, without objection, that we move the consent agenda to the first item on the agenda. Without objection, could I get a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. That's approval and a second. Thank you. Pat Bryant?
Aye.
Amy Churchill?
Aye.
Amanda Simpkins?
Aye.
Max Queen? Max Queen? I'll come back to Mr. Queen. Cindy McMahon?
Aye.
Peggy Buchanan?
Aye.
Ann Franklin? Aye. Mr. Queen, are you on? Could we fix the audio for Mr. Queen? The motion passes. At this time, let's see, we're going to do the consent agenda? Okay. At this time, we're going to take action on the consent agenda. The consent agenda contains minutes of the June 30, 2021 special called meeting, the personnel report with an addendum, approval of transfer of projects to lottery funding, procurement of English language arts curriculum and sole source vendor Great Minds PBC, advisory council members, approval of board member training credits, Avery's Creek Elementary School utility easement, Buncombe County School substitute teacher pay increase,
Little arrow.
policy to be rescinded
I see it, yes,
is
I do.
policy 490. Control of personnel communications is a policy that is to be rescinded. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks.
So moved.
Thank you. Could I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. And again, I have to call your name. Pat Bryant.
Aye.
Amy Churchill.
Aye.
Amanda Simpkins.
Aye.
Max Queen.
Aye.
Cindy McMahon.
Aye.
Peggy Buchanan. Aye. And Ann Franklin. The next item on the agenda is our superintendent comments. Dr. Baldwin.
Good evening, everyone. We appreciate you being here tonight with us. I started this morning session with the board by saying there's some universal good news for our school system, and I truly believe for school systems across this state. Last year at this time, we were pondering all virtual instruction, all students home. Certainly that was a challenge to a number of our parents regarding child care and supervision, but we were forced at that time to move in that direction. The great news is that on August 23rd, Buncombe County Schools, 44 campuses and schools, will be open for business. It will be open for in-person instruction with teachers and students. And for the first time in our history, we are also going to opt to provide parents an opportunity to apply for a virtual academy, K-12, to give, again, parents that option. So very pleased to be able to announce that to our public. This has been an extremely busy summer for all of us, extremely challenging summer. From Buncombe County Schools, we've been in the employee hunting business. 714 jobs have been posted. The good news is the majority of those have been filled. We still have some openings, so if there's some interest, especially in driving a bus, we certainly would appreciate hearing from you. On August the 11th, next week, we will be entertaining 60+ brand new teachers to the profession. Excited about that. They will actually be meeting in this particular monitorium and receiving some in-service. And then we turn around on Friday and we have a total of 160 brand new staff, not necessarily brand new to the profession, but new staff to Buncombe County Schools. So we're looking forward to next week as it kicks off preparing our staff for the opening of those school buildings. And again, as I mentioned, August 23rd is that target date when we're going to be ready for those students that walk through those hallways. I want to recognize this morning and extend my appreciation to this board for your deliberations. Nothing new. Since March of 2020, this school system, like the other 114 in this state, have had tremendous challenges in dealing with the pandemic. And so I want to extend my appreciation because it really hasn't changed. We've been trying to look at data, take in feedback, and I understand because I'm, even though I'm not an elected official, I receive a lot of the emails that come in from stakeholders, and those stakeholders, I think hundreds of emails came in to this school board expressing their opinions about a number of different areas regarding operating our schools. And they consisted of parents, they consisted of teachers, and they consisted of public stakeholders. Because if you live in this community, whether you have a child, or in my case, 8 grandchildren that are going to be part of this school system, regardless of that, you're a stakeholder. So I know each and every board member appreciated having that feedback. And I want to end my comments with saying this, sort of how I ended this morning. I want all of us to realize that from my standpoint as a superintendent, and I've been in the saddle for quite a while, that what we faced with COVID is the greatest challenge that this school system has faced. And I think for many of us, it's been the greatest challenge compared to many, many different challenges that have come people's way. But the one thing I'm firmly convinced about And I told the board this morning. We gave them two options to consider in terms of what August 23rd will look like. A lot of discussion, about an hour and 45 minutes till a decision was reached. But in the end, I said to them what I've said way too many times. They're probably tired of hearing me say it. I know our principals are. But there's one constant, one single constant in dealing with COVID-19 for us in this school system as educators, and that is change. So whatever decision is made today, because of the change that is coming our way and accelerating at such a rapid speed, in both directions, that change is inevitable. So where we find ourselves today certainly may not be where we find ourselves even 48 hours from now. So, Madam Chair, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address our distinguished public.
Thank you. At this time, I've asked our attorney to read a document.
So next on the agenda item, board members, is public comment, and I just want to read some of the procedures for public comment for our audience, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Please listen for your name to be called. We'll be inviting people to the podium in the order in which they signed up. Before beginning your comments, please state your name and which school or district you live or your child attends if you'd like. Please note that the microphone system operates on a timer that will automatically turn off at exactly 3 minutes. If multiple people are here to comment on the same topic, you may elect one spokesperson who will be given 5 minutes to speak. You may not donate your time to other public commenters. Profane language, making threats, or revealing confidential student or staff information is not allowed. Please address the board as a whole and note that the board will not be able to respond directly to public comment. Thank you.
Thank you. That being said, we are now in the section of the agenda for public comment. Is our staff ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, we do have 34 public comments signed up for this evening. I will remind you there is a timer right here on the front of this desk if you look where I'm motioning here. So you can see it from the podium. As a courtesy, I'll give a 1 minute and a 30-second warning for you as well. Okay? So I'm going to call our first three, all right, for your 3 minutes of public comment. And if the second and third could line up along the side, and that'll respect your time, okay? So I'd like to call Lori Ledford first, followed by Lori Roper and Christiana Dillingham. Beginning with Lori Ledford, please. I'll just give 1 moment for everybody to find their spot. That's good. We'll line up right over here by the door. Okay, please begin when you're ready.
Hey, my name is Lori Ledford. I am from the A.C. Reynolds School District. I am the varsity volleyball coach at Reynolds High School. I have been coaching volleyball and high school athletics for 15, 20 years. And just something that I wanted to say, I've got lots of notes here, but I think it would come better for me just to speak from my heart. I have grown up in Buncombe County. I was A.C. Reynolds graduate. I played volleyball, basketball, softball there. So I've got a lot invested in sports here in Buncombe County, and I'm very proud of that. Again, I've sent you guys an email about what I want to speak about, and it's the mask regarding volleyball. The fact is, volleyball is the only sport that is being affected by the mask mandate. All other sports in the fall are played outside. And I just wanted to bring to you guys' attention, like I said, I sent you an email, so I'll spare you reading my email. I just want to highlight a couple of things. Last Friday, I got the email saying we would have to wear a mask. Then the second email I got was saying that we would have to watch out for heat-related illnesses. Well, you guys know that our gyms are not air conditioned, so our gyms get very hot, and it is a fall sport, but it's a summer sport because summer in August in the gym is very humid and heat, and I can't recognize whether my girls are suffering from heat-related illnesses with their mouths and nose covered. Last year we did wear masks while we played, but we also played from November to January, and the temperature in the gym is considerably different at that time of the year. When they are exerting themselves, they can't, they just can't breathe with a mask on their face. I suffered from a heart condition when I was younger, and I played sports, and my parents, along with our doctors and stuff, it's hard to breathe sometimes when your heart's elevated and racing quickly. You put a mask on your face, it's crazy. So I just like to plead that you guys would reconsider that with our volleyball team. If football, track, well, not track, if football, cross country, golf, tennis, and soccer were all affected by it, I'm sure we'd have a lot more coaches and people here complaining about that. So that's my 2 cents. I appreciate what you guys do, and I know it's not an easy decision to make, but I'm just speaking for my girls and just asking you guys to reconsider. I've had parents text and email me and ask me, to look out for them because their kids are already complaining about being dizzy and stuff like that. And, I know some people like to throw the term around that we're going by the science, and I don't claim to be a scientist or a medical physician or anything, but one thing that I do know is that we've had, out of 601,000 deaths, 0 to 17 age group, there's been 337. That's not even a percent. It's like 0.0000%. And the number one death caused from high school athletes is heat exhaustion and heat stroke. So just want you to guys keep that in mind and know there's other things out there besides just COVID going on, and bring that to your attention.
Thank you. I'd call Lori Roper now for public comment.
Board members, my name is Lori Roper, and I have been a substitute teacher in Buncombe County for the last 5 years. Our children are not supposed to be subjected to hostile environments in the educational system, and I believe that wearing masks is a hostile environment for them. We didn't turn our children over to the government, at least I hope not, or to the teachers union, and that brings me to a point because as a teacher of 20 years in New York City, I was a member of the teachers union, but no more. We are turning kids into fearful and subjugated people, and we need to change that now. Otherwise, I don't know how we're going to live with ourselves. What I think is we're looking at the abuse of children. Now, that's a very, very strong word, abuse. But when we make our kids wear masks in school, I really think that it is close to abuse. As a teacher, I see struggling kids all the time. Never mind the breathing problems that lead to respiratory infections, and one of my peers will introduce statistics on that after I get off the podium. Now consider also on an emotional level the embarrassment of some kids who are wearing a mask and they can't articulate properly behind the mask. And I'm not talking about special ed kids necessarily, I'm talking about all kids. And when I have to say, what did you say? What did you say 3 times, and then ask them to pull down their mask a little so that I can understand the answer to their questions, it's very, very disconcerting for everybody there, and I'm sure quite humiliating to a lot of the kids as well. We have federal bureaucrats, whether they're medical or educational, telling our kids to mask up, even though the science does not support it. I'm going to give you 2 examples of scientific studies, but as I said, my peers will add to that. There was a Vietnamese study with 1,600 participants, and they found that cloth masks allow for 97% penetration of particles. This is the same size of particle that the virus emits. And that those wearing cloth masks had a higher rate of infection over the control group who wore no masks. Really, the only masks that work, apparently, in the research I've done, are the N95 masks. Our kids don't wear those anyway. Those are worn by doctors and nurses on the front lines. Now, there was another study that was done in Denmark of 16,000 participants, and there was no significant difference between those wearing masks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Christiana.
Hi, I'm
Dillingham.
Christiana Dillingham, and my children attended Clyde Irwin District. In this morning's meeting, I'm going to read fast. No one spoke of the detriment to children of enforced masking except for Mrs. Simpkins addressing her concerns around sports, so I will do that now. I'm going to read sections of a report from the website Rational Ground, who broke the news about a study conducted by parents in Florida who were concerned about the masks that their children were required to wear. The parents contracted with the University of Florida's Mass Spectrometry Research and Education Center lab because they were concerned about the potential of contaminants on masks that their children were forced to wear all day at school, while taking them on and off and setting them on various surfaces and wearing them in the bathroom. I am reading sections so that Buncombe County has this in its official record. This is the following from National Ground. A group of parents in Gainesville, Florida sent 6 masks to a lab at the University of Florida requesting analysis of contaminants found on the mask after they had been worn. The face masks studied were newly or freshly laundered before wearing and had been worn for 5 to 8 hours, most during in-person schooling by children aged 6 through 11. One was worn by an adult. A t-shirt was worn by one of the children to school, and unworn masks were tested as controls. No pathogens were found on the controls. The resulting report found that 5 masks were contaminated with bacteria, parasites, and fungi. Although the test is capable of detecting viruses, including SARS-CoV-2, only one virus was found on one mask, and it was a herpes virus. Half of the masks were contaminated with one or more strains of pneumonia-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with one or more strains of meningitis-causing bacteria. 1/3 were contaminated with dangerous antibiotic-resistant bacterial pathogens. In addition, less dangerous pathogens were identified, including pathogens that cause fever, ulcers, acne, yeast infections, strep throat, periodontal disease, Rocky Mountain spotted fever, and more. Mrs. Amanda Donahue, a parent involved in the study, said, "We need to know what we are putting on the face of our children each day. Masks provide a warm, moist environment for bacteria to grow." My comment is as follows. This lab sample proves that enforced masking endangers our children's health completely. Unmask our children. Let them use their mouths to sing, speak, and smile with one another as God intended.
All right, I will call our next 3 public comment. It would be Miranda Frisbee, Steve Parkin, and Tamara Parker. Please come down, and we will begin with Miranda Frisbee. Please wait one moment till everybody gets down. All right, thank you. Please begin when you're ready.
Hello. I've been a resident here since 2003. My husband is native, born and raised here. We have two children, a 9-year-old and a 2-year-old. My husband is battling an autoimmune disease, and we decided it was in our best interest to keep our son in virtual learning up until now. Today, realizing the isolation's impact on our son, we have now made the decision to let our little boy be a little boy again. My issue with masks is that they put our family more at risk, not less. We have a healthy, very active little boy and run into the same issues over and over again, one being his need to constantly adjust. He takes his hands that he uses to grab these door handles and all these railings, and he reaches up to pull them out of his eyes because he can't see because he's jumping and bouncing. He's a little boy. He's being a little boy here. Okay, and worse, his mask falling onto the floor. It falls on the floor on a regular basis, and then he has to then place it back on his face and breathe that bacteria for the rest of the day because of these mandates. Mandates, the problem we're faced with here today. This is our decision based on our family, individual needs. And we respect others who decide differently. That's fine. Individual rights to attain the freedom to choose is not a political problem. Unlike many people like to make this out to be, this is not a political problem here. This is a healthcare problem. This is about medical freedom and individual liberties in America. I am here today to remind you that mandates are about as un-American as it can get. Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve Parkin, please.
Steve Parkin, I live off Sardis Road. Hey, how about those Olympics, huh? Been watching? That's okay. Nobody else watched them either. But I did catch the part where Dr. Jill Biden had some kind of a ceremony with, I think, the Prime Minister, some kind of Japanese ceremony, incense, and she took that incense and wafted it right through her mask. And I thought to myself, gee, if that incense can get through, I wonder if a virus that is way, way, way smaller can get through as well. And now, how does this relate to your schools? Let me tell you, if your kids can tell what's cooking in the cafeteria, that mask ain't doing nothing for them. Nothing. Now, I know this isn't the forum where you can interact with me, but I would like it if you could raise your hands. Can anybody on the panel up on the dais here tell me what is the exact name of the test that is currently being used to test for the Delta variant? Anybody? Any hands? Any hands? There isn't one. 2 weeks ago, the CDC said, well, we're not going to do that PCR. We're not going to do that one anymore because, well, I can't really tell the difference between the flu or a cold or COVID or any other virus. The gentleman that invented this test, you can pull up the video, he said this was not designed to test for viruses. And yet we're using all of this information to make up PowerPoints, develop graphs, make sweeping decisions for our children based on faulty data, skewed data. The data is skewed, and our children are a word that rhymes with it. I want to know what the emergency was this morning. An emergency that was called when everybody's at work and can't come. An emergency where there was no public comment. What was the emergency that couldn't wait 5 more hours until this evening? The last thing, Dr. Baldwin, you did this, and I'm glad you did it, as well as this gentleman over here. I'm sorry I don't know your name. Whenever you wanted to effectively communicate this morning, you took that mask that you had on and you took it off. I am wondering if you were going to afford that same luxury to your teachers, to your students that would also like to effectively communicate. Because if not, that is the ultimate object lesson in hypocrisy.
Thank you. Tamara Parker, please.
Madam Chair, may I just ask a question? I thought our policy was not to have any kind of distractions within the chamber. Maybe the lawyer could clarify that for us. I'm having a hard time hearing these people, and I think it's very disrespectful that it's cutting into their 3 minutes.
Excuse me, folks.
Policy.
Excuse me,
Could I have your
folks.
attention, please?
We have typically allowed applause after somebody speaks in public comment. What we have not allowed, however, are other disruptions of the meeting.
Thank you.
But we have typically allowed people to applause after public comment in the past.
Thank you. Our next public comment person, would you please take the stand and tell us your name?
I'm Tamara Parker, and I'm a little bit short here. So we're here this morning, and as he just mentioned, we could not understand what you were saying when you had your masks on. You sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher. You know, our kids are already struggling to pay attention all day in class, and how are they supposed to understand or pay attention if they're hearing how is that supposed to happen? I wonder how the real learning is, and I wonder how the test scores are for the last year. But I have two documents here that I think are kind of important, and this is the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of North Carolina. And according to both of those, you guys don't have the legal authority to do this. And yes, I have checked this out with an attorney. So both the government and the people have forgotten that our rights come from God and not from government. And we're here to remind you of that. Both federal and state constitutions are there to limit the power of the government and give the power to the people. So I have some settled Supreme Court law for you, and there's more, but it's probably too long to read. So I have 4 cases, but I'm only going to give you 2. All right, in Miranda versus Arizona, it's 348 U.S. 436, page 491. Where rights secured by the Constitution are involved, there can be no rulemaking or legislation which would abrogate them. Home Building and Loan Association versus Blaisdell 290 U.S. 398 states, emergency does not create power. Emergency does not increase granted power or remove or diminish restrictions imposed upon power granted or reserved. The Constitution was adopted in a period of grave emergency. Its grants of power to the federal government and its limitations of the power of the states were determined in the light of emergency and are not altered by emergency. We do not wish for our children's experience at school to be altered by this emergency that has a 99.8% survivability rating. According to the North Carolina Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, all political power is vested in and derived from the people. All government of right originates from the people, is founded upon...
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
All right, I would like to call our next 3 public comment down. This would be Gina Presley, Brandon Roberts, and Stephanie Parsons. We'll begin with Gina. If the other 2 could wait here by the door, please. Yeah, I'll say the names again. Gina Presley, Brandon Roberts, Stephanie Parsons. Okay. We'll begin with Gina. Please begin when you're ready.
Good evening. I'm Gina Presley, and I represent the Inca District. I'm a lifelong resident of Buncombe County, and I attended Buncombe County schools. I also had 2 children that attended the school system and have 3 granddaughters that are enrolled right now. This morning, I attended your special meeting that was supposed to be just a discussion, and then you voted. It's very disheartening that you voted without hearing public comment. You are elected officials, but this morning you sure didn't act like it. We vote that our voice is heard through your voice. Again, I'm very disheartened from this morning's meeting. I believe both sides deserve the opportunity to be heard before you placed your vote.
Good evening. My name's Brandon Roberts, and my children attend the T.C. Robertson District. I'm here to speak on behalf of the ELA program that you're trying to bring into the community. You snuck in You either A, snuck in the program without describing in the agenda what this program is about, or B, you didn't put in your research to discover what this program is about. This program is being brought under scrutiny nationwide for containing and promoting critical race theory. It's not brought into description in any of the links that the agenda brought forward. It took me multiple link followings to even find that this company was about or the curriculum. And then I had to do my own research to really discover what this curriculum promoted. I think this board should have been more transparent with the community. It should have brought it into question before this was even a matter of procuring this curriculum from this company. Like I said, I would like to hope that it's a matter of you didn't put in the research that you should have on this curriculum, and not a matter of you tried to blindside us, the parents in this community, with teaching our children what is our responsibility to teach them. It's not the board's, it's not the school system's responsibility to teach our children what's right and wrong. It's our responsibility. It's your responsibility to teach them true facts. You want to teach them true history? I'm all about it. Even the good, the bad, and the ugly, but do it at an appropriate age. My 9-year-old does not need to know about segregation. You want to teach my 13-year-old about segregation? I'm all about it. But teach him that that was a thing of the past. Don't try to indoctrinate that it's a thing of the present, because it's not, and it hasn't been for many years. I am a United States Navy veteran, and I can promise you in the 7 years of my service, not one time did I see a color, a gender, or a nationality that was a brother or a sister that put on that uniform that stood with me, and our children see their peers the same way. Stop teaching them otherwise.
Thank you. Stephanie Parsons.
My name is Stephanie Parsons, and I am an advocate for children's health after my son was injured by vaccines in 2016. I'm going to get straight to the point here because it's not about the mask, let's be honest. You're merchandising with our children, and the mask is just to get us to the vaccine. You just want to see how many people will comply to the mask, that way that you can mandate the vaccine. So let's talk about the pandemic in general. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but there was actually a court ruling in Alberta, Canada, with a plaintiff. His name is Robert King, who subpoenaed the Department of Health and Human Services head, who asked for specifically the virus. He wanted the isolation of the virus, of SARS-CoV-2, COVID, whatever you want to call it. Guess what they said? They couldn't provide that evidence because there is no isolation of the virus. Because just as the CDC said, it is influenza, the common cold, or in some cases, allergies. So what we're actually doing is we're propagating numbers through a PCR test that is fraudulent, as he spoke of earlier, per Dr. Carrie Mullins. So what you're doing is you're propagating our children for merchandising, for your funding that comes from our taxpayers' dollars. And it's unacceptable, it's unconstitutional, and it will not stand any longer. Every action that you make today, which you already did earlier, which was unconstitutional in itself, any action you do going further, I promise you there will be a class action lawsuit. Now I'm going to speak to all of the parents. I want you all to go and submit a complaint to ncc4cr.com. You submit your complaint there, and you let them know how these individuals sitting on this board are operating as an autocracy. We're past the point of a democracy, which stands for order out of chaos. We are a republic. We are not an autocracy. You are not dictators, and you do not get to tell us what we can and cannot do with our children. I get messages every single day from parents who are scared to death because they don't know what their rights are. I want you to know that you have a religious exemption in North Carolina under GS 130-A. Your religious exemption doesn't have to be anything more than it's against my religion. They cannot come against you, and if they do, that's a class action lawsuit, a civil rights class action lawsuit. I want you all to know you are being put on notice, and I've been here before, and you've seen me before, and I wasn't kidding. And I'm not kidding now, and none of these parents are either, and all the ones sitting at home right now watching live, they're not kidding either. And this is only gonna light the fire inside of them, because this is America and we stand for freedom. You will not dictate to us what we will do with our children.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to call our next three: Gloria Michael, Charmaine McGuire, Heather Boyan. We'll begin with Gloria Michael. Please come on down. Charmaine McGuire, Heather Boyan, by the door, please. Gloria Michael, when you're ready.
Can't hear any of the names.
Yeah, please begin.
Yeah, my name is Gloria Michael, and I live in Black Mountain. And I really don't have no kid in public school. I'm just concerned.
Yeah, start her again so that she's got a good microphone.
Yeah, my name is Gloria Michael, and I live in Black Mountain. And I really don't, I was a homeschool parent. And I'm just here to encourage you to please do not make the kids wear masks all day long in school. They're not sanitary. And also, please vote against the CRT. That's terrible. It's racist, Marxist theory. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
I hope y'all have a good day.
Charmaine McGuire, please.
Hi, my name is Charmaine McGuire, and forgive me, I'm a little nervous. This is my first time at the rodeo. But I do have concerns about my daughter, who's in the Reynolds District, wearing masks. I don't think it's safe for her. She's complaining about headaches recently, and that's because she is on, she's with the volleyball team. And so they're being forced to wear masks in the very hot gym, and she comes home every day saying, "Mom, I have a headache." So I see the concerns. I know that there are psychological issues associated with mask wearing. I know that between April and October of last year, they had an increase in mental illnesses coming to the emergency room, those who had suffered from anxiety. In the ages between 5 and 11, I think it had increased about 25%. And then the ages of 12 to 17, it increased about 31%. So I think the evidence is there. We've heard it tonight, and I'm sure we'll hear more, that we really need to take back control of our children and allow them to be healthy when they're in the classroom trying to learn. I mean, we respect your wishes. We respect the teachers in the classroom and those running the schools. We ask that you respect us as parents and let us make that choice for our children. So that's what I'm asking you to do today. I am extremely disappointed that the vote was made this morning. I cannot make sense of that, and it really has to make sense to me, or I'm going to continue to ask questions. So it probably won't be the last time you see me. But I definitely want you to consider stopping this and allowing our children to breathe when they're trying to learn. This is their time. Thank you.
And Heather Boyan.
Good evening. My name is Heather Boyan. I'm a mother of 4 children, and I worked for 10 years in public school system, 8 years in Massachusetts as a school psychologist, and 2 years in South Carolina. Now we live in Buncombe County and in Madam Chair's district. My 2 older sons are 9 and 11. Unfortunately, they were discriminated against this past spring at Weaverville Elementary School by Miss Heidi Allison, the principal there, and also the assistant superintendent. When my boys were sent to school with masks on, the masks that they had were not up to par with what the principal wanted them to wear. She saw me directly in car line, took my child's temperature. I looked at her directly in the eye. She wanted to issue a new mask to my child, and I said, "Please do not do that. What he has on is fine." She went on and actually did issue him a new mask. He came home on the school bus that day with a severe headache, very upset as what had happened to him, confiscated his mask, would not give it back to him, and then lied to me over email and to my face on the phone and to my son, saying that she gave his mask back to him. So it lost a lot of my trust in the school system after that incident. I was very upset about it. As a result, my children were forced to come home and finish remote schooling with me, so they were only in school for about 2 weeks when the mask became an issue. They were having constant headaches, nausea, coming home very tired. It was very upsetting to me as a mom to have my children having these unnecessary symptoms. Although they may be common symptoms, they're not normal. Okay, and that's a big issue for me. I'm a natural health care person at this point in my life, and I do not believe that masks are healthy for our kids. What's further disturbing about what happened to our family was that, I did all my research. I looked at the Department of Health and Human Services Strong Schools Toolkit, and I read specifically in there that there's not just an exemption, a medical exemption, but there's actually an exception. And the exception states that if you cannot breathe with a face covering on, you do not have to wear one. And so I used that information from the school district, presented that to everybody, to Miss Allison, to the assistant superintendent. Nobody was willing to honor that. I'm not sure why, because it was part of your policy. So I kept my children home with 4 kids, running 2 businesses and doing digital remote learning. It was very challenging and completely unnecessary. I believe in public education, but I also believe in trust, and I believe in having a critical conversation with everybody. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next 3 will be Congressman Madison Cawthorn, followed by Don Yelton and Eric Burns. Please come down, Don Yelton, Eric Burns.
To the members of this board, I believe you should all consider running for federal office. I genuinely believe you would all fit in very well in Washington, D.C. And although that's humorous, it is absolutely correct, because you have muzzled their voices just like you have muzzled our children. You passed this mask mandate without input from those who hold you accountable because you knew it was wrong. You knew it would never withstand the scrutiny of the public. I've witnessed swampy backdoor tactics from corrupt bureaucrats in Washington, D.C., but what you have done here today puts that all to shame. You have sacrificed the social, emotional, and psychological development of our children on the altar of wokeness. This school board has no right to rip personal responsibility away from the hands of its citizens. The family should always come before the government. You do not know better than the parents in my district. You do not have a right to slam down mandates upon children of Buncombe County that fly in the face of scientific reasoning. The greatest threat to our children today does not come from COVID-19. It comes from woke liberal government officials like you who think they are all-knowing and all-wise. I have some news for you. You are not all-knowing and you are not all-wise. You will never will be. So stop acting like it. Pay attention to the science, since that's what you claim to always focus on. Forcing our children to wear masks is nothing short of psychological child abuse, period. Their social skills are stunted. Many have attended schools for over a year now, and for the first time they've ever been to schools, and they have never seen the facial expressions of their classmates. Suicide attempts from children and teens in the United States are up 250% in 2020 at one U.S. hospital. Less than 0.25% of all U.S. COVID deaths were children. Every COVID death is a tragedy, but the cure should never be worse than the disease. Our children live in a world where science and reason have been cast aside and replaced with fear-mongering. Today, fear threatens to replace freedom. It doesn't even threaten it, actually, because they went ahead and voted without us being able to come and talk to them. I'm a direct descendant of Abraham Kuykendall, one of the first men to settle this county. He knew hardship firsthand. He did not endure that hardship just so a woke school board could begin to systematically strip the responsibility from the hands of parents and guardians to determine what happens with their children. He understood then that no government had a right to anoint themselves over the family unit. America's future is in our children. It is in all of your children. And this school board here should be held to account because, my friends, they have stripped your right as parents to determine what happens to them. You should all be ashamed of yourself.
For him as long as they want to.
So could you start with
a long time, hadn't it, since I've been up here?
Sir, could you please start with your name?
My name?
Yes, sir.
Most people know me, Don Yelton. I'm known as the Hellraiser in Buncombe County because I point out the truth. And I'm going to tell you something. I watched this morning. You all had you are so stupid as a group, because you actually manipulated this whole thing this morning so you'd have one do this and one do that and one do the other. You do it and it's obvious, and these people are smart enough to see you do it. You're just like the county commissioners. Come in, you got 3 minutes to talk. Don't listen to anybody, don't talk anybody's name. Just tell us what you think. You don't give a rat's butt about what I think. You don't care about facts. If you cared about facts, you would have given the definition of everything you put up there. Now, that's coming from somebody that graduated as Phi Kappa Phi at East Tennessee with a master's degree in biology, thesis published, and a guy who had a master's degree in environmental systems engineering, and I designed wastewater treatment plants and handed the design to an engineer so he could seal it. I know my science, and I know what I'm talking about. COVID is a virus. It's going to act like a virus. Some are going to get it. Some are going to die. Some are going to get it, and they're going to have no problem. And I told you all this morning, right over there. The government used to make things available and let people make a decision. But right now, there ain't a person in this crowd trusts the government. Not a one of them trusts the government. And I'm going to tell you what. When you have to have a gun protector out here in the county commissioners, I'd be ashamed if I was you all to do such a lousy job to have police all around, and out there you're elected by the public. Now, I'm going to do something right now because, folks, if you all don't have this thing full every meeting and tell them what you want and vote their fanny out, and that's not political, that's vote their fanny out, Miss Churchill, and put a board in there that'll respond to you, you're going to get the same crap just like you get it at the county commissioners meeting. And man, I've still got a minute. I've still got a minute. And I had one lady get up, she got up and said something and she was stuttering. That's just as important, because you know when a little old citizen gets up here and says, I don't like what you're doing, that's a whole lot more dangerous when I get up here, because you know that's a vote. And everything you think about is votes, votes, votes. Oh, I'm going to use up my time, sir. I see you 3. I'm watching the clock. The county's got me conditioned for good for this because they give me 3 minutes. I'm perfect at it. I can stop right at 1 second. And that's exactly what I plan to do. Because, folks, you do elect the man that said, I'm not elected, but we elect your boss. And that's going to be important next election. Really important. Watch the clock.
Mr. Eric Burns, could you start with your name, please?
Yes, my name's Eric Burns. I'm a parent of 2 kids here in the Inca District. One's at Inca Intermediate School. My son is a freshman at Inca High School this year. And my wife emailed every one of y'all, talked about the quotes that my kids are concerned about putting masks on. If the masks work, why does my kids have to wear the mask? I mean, that's, you know, if everybody in this room is worried about COVID, why do everybody else on the opposite side have to wear a mask? If your mask works so well, it's so ridiculous. You know, what happened to the parents' choice? You know, why does the government take the choice away from us parents? My daughter's type 1 diabetic. You know, she talks about having to wear a mask, sweat, get headaches in PE all the time. And what do we do about it? You know, we've tried virtual school. We have tried county school, public school, you know, and this is what we get. So, again, please, I know y'all took a vote this morning, but what about the public input? it didn't matter that we all showed up tonight because y'all already made your decision. Thank you.
I'd like to call our next three: Zen Honeycutt, Elizabeth Wilkins, Joy File. And I would ask you to please start with your name so people online can clearly hear who's speaking. Again, we're starting with Zen Honeycutt, Elizabeth Wilkins, Joy File. Jay, I apologize. Thank you. We'll start with Zen.
Okay, there's documents right there for the board. Hi, my name is Zen Honeycutt. I'm a parent and also the director of Moms Across America. And I support, thank you, personal choice, and I oppose medical discrimination. And as our children go back to school, we must be considering not only how to protect our children, but how wireless radiation has been proven to harm their immune systems. I am sure that the technology director has informed you that the school district follows FCC guidelines, and I appreciate that. However, the fact is the FCC did not include children. Tests were done on full-grown dummies, did not include a prolonged amount of time, more than 30 minutes, are over 30 years old, and the FCC is being sued to update them, and do not include multiple devices in one room, like 24 students or routers. Therefore, unfortunately, any school that simply follows the FCC guidelines is not actually considering science and our children's safety. We simply must do better, and rescinding 490 PCD does not help. The fact is that there are over 8,000 scientific studies showing harm to animals and humans who are consistently exposed to wireless radiation, especially cancer. Every minute our children are exposed to wireless radiation also puts them at a higher risk of weakened immune systems and severe COVID symptoms. One study shows brain damage to brain cells after only 1 hour of exposure wireless radiation per day for 1 month, increasing the risk of learning, headaches, and behavioral disorders. Another reproductive study after only 18 weeks of 2 daily sessions of 3 hours exposure stated the majority of the sperm of the rats were dead. Exposing our children to high levels of wireless radiation is unwise, especially when having a strong immune system is crucial, impacting whether or not our schools, businesses, and county is shut down. Our schools are legally obligated to provide a safe school environment. Remote learning is simply not comparable to in-school learning and puts children at a disadvantage if forced to do so to avoid Wi-Fi. I'm asking you to please have a special session to discuss reducing wireless radiation and getting hardwired, which is faster, safer, and more secure to provide a safe school environment. The Tech Safe School program shows that they can reduce Wi-Fi exposure up to 80 to 90%. And I appreciate the technology director, Mr. Pace, has stated that he's taking steps, but the actual percentage of reduction of radiation has not been provided. I have photos that I have provided you that show that not only do laptops emit 787,000 microwatts per square meter, cell phones emit 37,000, but a Buncombe School County classroom emitted 1.6 million microwatts per square meter. BioInitiative recommends 0.006 microwatts per square meter. We need to do more to take steps to have a safe school environment. So in the meantime, until we are hardwired, I recommend that the board requires a screen time in classrooms adjusted to 5 minutes per class or less than 30 minutes per day. This absolutely is possible. Schools in other countries and around the world.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Wilkins, please start with your name.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Wilkins. I'm actually here to speak for my daughter, Maisie Ann Wilkins. These last 18 months have been unprecedented for everyone, especially families who have school-aged children during these times. I know you have been tasked of making many difficult decisions concerning this pandemic and the best way to proceed and navigate through this. My daughter is entering first grade this year, and she has an entire school year behind her, yet still has not been able to experience a single day of what a normal school is. Not a day without Zoom meetings, temperature checks, guidelines or masks, Though I respectfully disagree with some decisions made over this past year concerning particular mandates and policy, I certainly understand the rationale given the virus and the limited data available at the time. However, we have been at this for 1.5 years now, and this is no longer the case. It has been widely proven that children are not main vectors of transmission of this virus, and certainly are not in grave danger of hospitalization or worse. Given this fact and the fact that every single adult over the age of 18 in our area and across the country have had the opportunity to vaccinate, I no longer understand how it's my child's responsibility, or anyone for that matter, to try to protect another person who has not chosen to vaccinate. Let me be clear. Am I done? Okay. Let me be clear. I am not anti-mask. I believe in a choice and that family should have the ability to govern their own affairs, including that of their own children. If parents are concerned about their child, then mask them up. Mask them up. You know, the CDC and our so-called health experts have flip-flopped and been on every side of every issue with this. They have contradicted themselves countless times, including that very moment they reinstated the mask recommendation to indoor facilities, including schools. I just want my daughter's face to be seen by her teachers. She is beautiful. She's beautiful, and I want you to be able to see her. Let her be seen. Okay.
Jay File, please start with your name.
My name is Jay File. I'm a longtime resident of Black Mountain. My kids graduated from schools there. I now am a grandmother, although my grandkids don't live in this district. I want to address the elephant in the room, which is that we are at war. We are at an informational war. Any doctor that states something against this narrative to push the vaccines, which is all about making money and enslaving us, anybody who speaks up against that is crucified. They lose their jobs, they get slandered in the paper. The most recent one is Dr. McCullough. And then what Stephanie said, in Alberta, Patrick King brought that case, subpoenaed the top health official in Alberta, asked her to show the science, show the variant. They could not do it because it doesn't exist. This is all smoke and mirrors. It's smoke and mirrors. You're basing your stuff on false data because you're just listening to the liars. Our government, our health departments, they're all coming down because they're lying and the truth will come out. Each of you has been subpoenaed from 3 months ago, and I'm glad to see you think that's funny. You were supposed to have, according to the law, when you're subpoenaed, you're supposed to respond, and not responding is an admission of guilt. None of you should be sitting there making any decisions. It's all unconstitutional. It's all against the law. And this having private meetings, voting before public comment, you show over and over your disrespect for the people who you are supposed to be protecting. The disrespect is huge. The lies you're basing your assumptions on and your guidelines and mandates are huge. They're illegal, and don't think we're forgetting about you. When you do illegal things, you sooner or later are called accountable. And there will be lawsuits. There will be things when people lie and when people do things against the children and against the family. I want each of you to look in your soul, especially you on the computer over there, not even paying attention. Not even the courtesy, Amy, of paying attention while people are talking. I only have 3 minutes, and you can't spare 3 minutes of your time to listen. And no.
I'd like to call our next three: Gardner Hathaway, Graham Harrison. Excuse me, Gardner Hathaway, Barbara Harrison, Graham Harrison. In that order, please. Start with Gardner Hathaway. Wait 1 moment till everybody comes down.
Thank you. My name is Gardner Hathaway, and I live in East Asheville. I have 3 grown children, and they have children of their own. With all the issues that are being discussed right now, and there are many, I would like to focus on one that I truly think supersedes all the others at this point right now in time, and that is the face masks. The face masks are a joke, and they simply do not work. Although I must admit, Nancy Pelosi looks much better when she wears one. The science that we've all been told over and over has clearly shown, and we've been told to follow the science, clearly shown in prior studies, many of them, that face masks are not effective in stopping microscopic viral transmissions. I don't want to bore you, but I will state that scientific fact again. Face masks are not effective in stopping viral transmissions. Dr. Fauci stated this fact very clearly in his interview in February 2020. No one needs to be wearing a face mask. You know, they provide a false sense of security. You don't need a face mask. And that's what he said in his private emails as well, before he changed his mind. And now mask mandates are flying around everywhere, once again, with no true science to justify the edicts. Just the hysteria, the posturing, the shaming, which continues daily from the mainstream mouthpieces. The science does tell us that face masks become easily contaminated in a short period of time and become a breeding ground for bacteria and other pathogens due to the warmth and moisture produced by the condensation created when a person inhales and exhales. Can you imagine what a young child's face mask would look like under a microscope at the end of a long school day? Do you care? I wonder if you all really have a choice in this matter. Or are you pretty much a rubber stamp that is told to, toe the line or you'll be sorry? I'm just curious, I really am. Your unanimous vote this morning to keep our children masked in school this fall made your positions very clear. And those positions are truly misinformed and not in the best interests of our children's well-being. Geez, I'm running out of time. Instead of abiding by the core tenet of our Constitution, which is freedom of speech, mainstream and social media have banned and censored and deplatformed people with alternative views. We will be voting. We are more aware now of elections. We will be back.
Thank you.
Thank you. Barbara Harrison, and again, please start with your name.
Life to the Owen District. I have members of my family who went there. My son attends the middle school, or he did. I was in labor for 23 and a half hours, so I think that gives me the choice to decide whether or not he wears a face mask in school. I'm pretty sure. And I also, he hates it. He absolutely hates it. And I have to wear one at work up until state board says I didn't have to wear one. I had a massive infection in my nose that had to be treated with oral antibiotics and a steroidal ointment in my nose. I have an exemption for health reasons not to wear one. And these children do not need to be muzzled up. They do not deserve it. They need an education. They need to be able to speak clearly. He has a learning disability. He has to hear. He's severely dyslexic. And if you know anything about dyslexia, it's a hard disability. And it was a miserable 18 months. He will tell you that he's been in school and he goes into the 8th grade, but he's 7.2 grade. He was 6.5. He hasn't been there, and he wants to go back. But I honestly don't think I want to send him back. I'm going to look at options to see what else I can do. Asheville Christian Academy just decided that it's an optional. If you want to wear it or not, you can. There's also homeschooling I've looked into, time for learning, and he goes to a tutor twice a week, so that is not provided from the school system at all. Your proficiency grades in the school system have gone way down, but they were down before. These kids deserve better, a lot better. They deserve an education. And if you want to wear 10 masks, 15 masks, be my guest. But my child doesn't need to wear a mask. And furthermore, I have actually spoken and put into emails about how the school system needs to have soap in the bathrooms. His bathroom does not have soap in it to wash his hands at the school. And they said it's because people vandalize with it. Well, I'm sorry, soap is better than Purell because it does not kill viruses, it kills bacteria. And I know this because I'm certified in all of this. Thank you.
Graham Harrison, please start with your name.
My name's Graham Harrison, and I go to Owen Middle School. And I came here just to tell you that I don't want to wear a mask. And masks, I think they should be illegal, to be honest. But, and really they are, is what I've heard from all these people. They pretty much are illegal. So, and like my mom said, there's never soap in the bathrooms, because everybody just throws it up on the walls, and I'm not one of them. And I don't understand why we have to wear a mask. And it just doesn't make sense in my mind. But it might make sense to other people's minds. I don't know. If they want to wear it, they can. If they don't have to. And I'm one person that I would not wear it. Bye and thank you.
Our next three for public comment, I'd like to invite Victoria Hoyland, Ginny Judd, and Carrie Merck. Victoria Hoyland, Ginny Judd, Carrie Merck. Again, please start with your name so people online can hear us. And please start when you're ready.
I'm Victoria Hoyland, and I think I'm in the minority here. My daughter is 6 years old and will attend Johnston Elementary this year for first grade. We are very excited for her to attend school in person. She is very excited to attend school in person. The staff and teachers at Johnston Elementary have been amazing over the last year, her first year of school, which was very non-traditional. On behalf of parents who will choose to vaccinate their children who are under the age of 12, when a vaccine is available, please follow the guidance of our public health agencies and experts and require universal masking without a vaccine exemption. I think we should fully follow the guidance for the sake of our community, but I'm primarily advocating for universal masking for at least K-8 schools until a vaccine is available. I respect the right of families to choose what is best for their children. However, parents who will vaccinate their kids under the age of 12 don't have the ability to exercise that right yet because a vaccine isn't available for their kids yet. I'm not asking for masks forever. All reports indicate that a vaccine for children will be available next month. We are so close. I know that COVID isn't as severe in kids as compared to adults. I know it's similar to the flu. I and many other Buncombe County parents vaccinate our families for the flu every year because we want the protection that these vaccines afford to these serious diseases. If this were the Alpha variant that we were dealing with, I would be fine with Plan B, option B, as it is. Delta variant is different. Studies published just this week show that vaccinated individuals can both contract and transmit the Delta variant, which is why our public health agencies are recommending masks for vaccinated individuals again. I want this to be over and to stop wearing masks as much as everyone in here, but we have to protect our kids and our community. Vaccination provides 90% protection against hospitalization and mortality against the Delta variant. I want to provide that protection for my daughter before she is exposed. Masks protect others more than the wearer. So my daughter wearing a mask will not afford her adequate protection. If the others around her aren't masked, she will be protecting everyone else around her, but they will not be protecting her. I'm asking the board and Buncombe County to help me protect my daughter and to help us protect our kids until we can exercise our right to choose to protect them with the vaccine. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Jeannie Judd, please.
I would remind the audience that applause is appropriate, but I would also ask the audience to respect the speaker as you have been respected.
Please start with your name.
Good evening. My name is Ginny Judd. I live in the Reynolds District. I was here at the last board meeting that you held in, I believe it was June. I want to thank all of my really well-spoken brethren here in the room tonight. I feel at a kind of a loss of words after they've been so eloquent. I wish I could thank Madison Cawthorn for being here, but he's already left us. What a great speech he gave to all of us. I was here also at this morning's meeting where no public comment was allowed. As you can see on my sign here, I believe firmly that as elected officials and paid elected officials, you work for us. How dare you make decisions that affect us and our children without our input? All of these statistics that you quoted that you're making these decisions upon are actually invalidated. On July 21st, the CDC declared that the PCR process, which is being called the test, it's invalid for testing for COVID as of December 31st. What does this mean? It means that every test that determined the cases is invalid. It's a process, as many of my fellow peers have advocated. Kary Mullis, he won a Nobel Prize for developing this process. It's not to be used as a test for any disease. I'd like to give a definition of the word coercion. Coercion is pressuring or intimidation something into doing something. What child wants to wear a piece of cloth over their face that restricts their breathing? I think many of my fellow citizens here and the boy that spoke just before would back me up on that. By adopting the option B this morning, again without public comment, you are using coercion by allowing those who have had the COVID jab to go unmasked. You are effectively implementing a form of vaccine passport. I never thought in my life I'd be fighting against a division of this sort. Don't we have enough division already in our public life? Finally, I'll finish up with a story from my daughter's freshman year here at Nesbitt Discovery Academy in the same building. There was an outbreak of chickenpox. Because she did not receive a vaccine, she was asked to stay home until the results of a titer test were given that proved she had immunity after contracting chickenpox naturally in 2011. Why don't we use science like this today, where immunity is based upon natural immunity?
Thank you.
Thank you. Please start with your name.
My name's Carrie Merck. I have 2 kids in the North Buncombe School District. A lot of what I have written down has already been said, so I'm going to try to touch the highlights. From a medical grade box of masks, I quote, "This product is not a respirator and will not provide any protection against COVID-19 or other virus variants." I'm not sure anything else needs to be said. The almighty CDC has spoken and said that vaccinated individuals can still transmit COVID-19. So while we have been shamed for over a year now for not wearing a mask, your mask protects me, my mask protects you, until it no longer fits the narrative. The choice today to say that vaccinated individuals who would like to volunteer that information can then go unmasked is less safe than letting everyone go unmasked. My children have had COVID. What evidence do you have that they're not equally as immune as a person who has been vaccinated? You have no evidence to speak to that. I have a great deal of research into it that they do probably have just as much immunity as people who have been vaccinated. It is unfair to them. It is unethical. From birth, babies see the smile on their parents' face, and they learn social cues and how to communicate with one another. You are robbing them of that by sitting and having a mask over your face and putting a mask over their face. Their words are being stifled behind masks. It is absolutely atrocious that you chose to make the vote without hearing the commentary here. I was terrified to come here because I was afraid I would be the minority, and I was afraid that I knew it would be very intimidating, and it still is, but I am so thankful that so many people have come out and spoke very eloquently about this issue. Some things that I would like to point out very quickly that are being done in the name of being sanitary. Children come home with wet masks because they chew on them. They are wearing a Petri dish on their face. Children have sat in the halls and ate their lunches where shoes have trodden, and they put their hands down on the ground to sit down so that they don't all get in the same room together. As if taking your mask off to eat lunch makes any sense. It makes as much sense as getting under the blanket to hide from the boogeyman. COVID's not going to check out while you eat lunch. It is asinine. Thank you.
All right, I'd like to invite Kevin Ercolini, Sarah Burrows, Sheldon Lieberman next for public comment. Kevin Ercolini, Sarah Burrows, Sheldon Lieberman. Beginning with Kevin Ercolini. And please wait one moment till they come down. Okay, please start with your name, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me be here. My name's Kevin Ercolani. My wife and I, we have 2 kids. They're twins. They're now 6.5. They are going to Hominy Valley Elementary, or were going to Hominy Valley Elementary. And one, to start with, very disappointing understanding that the vote went down and without listening to the public, taking what we have in our comments, that's not right. That's not right. So last year, we're doing the mask. I'm going to call it the muzzle. So it's a muzzle. I dropped my kids off. We're all excited the first day actually getting to go into school. They come back from school very upset, very saddening. And if I get emotional, excuse me. But it really pisses me off to see these things, these muzzles covering these kids' faces. My kids are in elementary school, for Pete's sakes. When you understand the science behind a mask, let me explain. I've been in the military, and the only masks that I've done research and I understand on is the M40 or N50 Pro mask. that has a chance to stop a virus. Anything else doesn't stop a virus. It doesn't do it. And there's enough peer-reviewed data, research, that proves it's not doing anything. I've also worked in the OR. I was an OR technician, and I wore masks. And you know what they do? They stop bacteria. That's what they're designed to do, is stop bacteria, not a virus. It's proven. It's out there. My son went back to the dentist, and this is out there too, by the way, and I also have a family member that is a dentist. Do you realize that what these things with the muzzles are doing is, and it's proven, it's happened in this past year, you can look and you can research it. What's it doing? It's causing tooth decay, gum inflammation, okay? And then the bottom line is it also can cause heart disease. This is happening. Why? Because of a mask. And this is coming right from dentists. Never seen it before, and having patients coming in all of a sudden with cavities, all of a sudden with this. My son too, he did that. He went to the dentist. Oh, let me show you his teeth now. Well, that's interesting because all the way up until 5 years, he's had perfect teeth.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sarah Burrows. Are you Sarah? Okay, well, Ms. Burrows is the next that is signed up tonight.
The policy does not permit to give somebody else your time.
Okay, yes, sir. Well, the next on our list then for signups
right.
would be Sheldon Lieberman. Please start with your name.
Hi, my name is Sheldon Lieberman, Reynolds School District. I'm a former public health educator. Something that you may have missed in terms of the data is where all these cases come from. It seems that if you look at it, you're looking at all of the people who had the flu. Well, what happened to all those cases? Did they just disappear? What about people who have pneumonia? What happened to those cases? Did they just disappear? No, they didn't, but all of a sudden we got these COVID cases, and we have no flu and no pneumonia. That doesn't make sense. Well, you know what they did? They redefined flu and they redefined pneumonia as COVID. So when you look at the mortality rate in the country, look at it seriously. Was there an increase in mortality in this country? No, there wasn't. They just reassigned one disease onto another disease and created this pandemic. This is... It's a swindle, is what it is. It's unfortunate that we all didn't have the right data. And if you look at the data, if you look at what the CDC says, they said, well, now this test, it's non-specific. So it doesn't matter if you have the flu or pneumonia. We can't tell the difference, so we deauthorize the authorization for this test as of December. So all this data that you're looking at, what is it? It means nothing. And I think you have to consider that when you're considering putting masks on people for fraudulent data. It's fraudulent.
Thank you. I'd like to invite Robert Presley, Cindy Gentry, and Keith Gentry next for public comment. Robert Presley, Cindy Gentry, Keith Gentry. Please wait one moment while everybody comes down. And we'll begin with Robert in just a moment. All right, please start with your name and begin when you're ready.
All right, thank you. I'm Robert Presley from the Inca District. I'm thankful for all of our community coming out here tonight. And given all these statistics, I was a Buncombe County student, and I was a C+ student at best, so I'm glad that they did all the smart stuff for me. So tonight I'm going to talk as a parent of 2 students in elementary school at Hominy Valley and a wife who teaches. Last year, my oldest daughter, who's now going into 4th grade, I had to watch her come home disappointed, not being able to interact with her friends regularly at her school, upset because she knew what school was like in a normal environment. Unfortunately, she, had to go through the pandemic like the rest of our kids last year. Now, fast forward into this year, I have a daughter going into kindergarten that's not even going to get to understand what a normal environment is going into school. She's not going to be able to hang around with her friends, be close to them, see their smiling faces to see if they're having a good day, or their sad faces if they had a sad day, because my youngest daughter is the type of person that wants everyone to feel better, and you can't see the emotion, and she can't be there as a friend or as a supporter to her, and that's sad to me because we've tried to raise our kids to be respectful of everything. Today, I watched the video online virtually, and I kept hearing the board talk about how this year is going to be a recovery year, and I respect that. But in order for it to be a recovery year, we need to uncover our students because they won't recover academically until they do mentally. And mentally, they cannot be there mentally if they can't, be there with their smiling faces, both for my students, my wife, who's a teacher, to our students. Your job as a school board is to provide the best educational process to my children and all the students in our county. The advantage to the plans that you guys chose today and Plan B, really, I looked at the board and the negatives to it was all educational negatives. The positives were health, and I want my kids healthy, but more importantly, when they go to school, I want them to learn and succeed in their lives for years to come when they're my age. My incoming kindergartner, who's going to suffer from reading skills because of the mask. You guys spoke, really big into the K through 2 is the big area when the reading skills take place, and I'm afraid that they're going to fall behind starting. We know that the most important part of anything is the foundation. So I'll hurry up and finish here. The hard decisions are hard to make. But we just want a voice. We want a voice to make a choice, and we ask that you give us choice as a parent to whether we send our kids to school with or without mask. I'm considering moving districts just to give my voice a chance to be heard and make it for my family to be heard and go to a place where we decide that we have the opportunity to make the right decisions. Thank you.
Cindy Gentry, please start with your name.
Hey, my name is Cindy Gentry. I have 2 children from the North Buncombe District. I have one that graduated from North Buncombe High School and one that is in 10th grade currently. I have served on PTO since my youngest was in 1st grade and she is now in 10th grade. I have been PTO president on many boards. I have had countless PTO meetings, and I've served on advisory councils, I've served on committees, and I just want to make one statement about that. With the exception of Dr. Baldwin, I have not seen one of your faces in any of those meetings. Never. In over 10 years, never have I seen y'all's faces in one of those meetings. And this morning, I watched the meeting, and I watched you say over and over and over, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. Amy had to remove her mask to speak tonight had to remove her mask to speak. She sat there and she hasn't listened to anything we've had to say. She's been scrolling on the computer. She's been writing. She's not paying attention. She hasn't made eye contact until she's been directly called out. It makes me angry that you would make this. First of all, you made a special called meeting this morning. There was no need for a special called meeting. Maybe to have a discussion, but to make the vote without even hearing us out is just downright wrong. I emailed every one of you, and there was I put 2 studies, one from the FDA and one from the EPA, stating that the particulate size, the micron size of the COVID is so small that the masks don't even work. The FDA, which these vaccines are not approved by the way, but the FDA says they don't work. And my child is a 10th grader. She is in band and loves band with all her heart. Loves it. That's the reason that I'm standing here, because every surrounding school district, every county has voted to make masks optional. Every one of them, but Buncombe County. Why are our kids different than all those kids? They're not. They're not. And I said to, I communicated with Amy via email, and I said, I really would like to know why. Why are we different? And she didn't respond to that. She responded to some things, and I appreciated that. She was the only one who even emailed me back. I have to give her credit with that. None of the rest of you emailed me back. And I don't understand. And this is wrong, what y'all have done.
Hey, my name's Keith Gentry. I'm from the North Buncombe District. I'm a native from here. I've lived here my whole life. And my dad last year was hospitalized. He was put on a ventilator, and we didn't know if he was going to make it. And when we went up there to see him, each and every time we would walk in and out of that room to see him, they would make us put a mask on. When we left the room, they'd make us throw it away. And we walked back in, we put a new one on. We were there for 3 weeks. And I don't know how many masks we went through in that 3-week period, but they would not allow us to walk back in that room with the same mask on. And I don't know if they know something that I don't. I don't know anything about the mask. All I know is what I've been told, which is 10 different things. But I do know this. I love this country, and I love the freedom that it gives us. And I love the freedom of choice. I love the freedom to vote. I love the freedom to know that my vote might matter. And to know that you guys made a vote before listening to us is upsetting. I would like to think that you would care. I know most of you have made eye contact with us, and you at least seem like you're listening. I don't know if you are or not. I'd like to think you are, but I do appreciate the freedom that each and every one of you have up there tonight to sit there with a mask or without a mask. That's your choice. I don't know which one of you's been vaccinated and which one hasn't. It's your choice there again. But I don't want my child to be identified one way or the other. I think if you make it optional, then they don't stand out. And kids can be mean to each other. Kids can ridicule one another. And I just don't think it's right to force you, these people, or anyone else to wear a mask, whether it be in a school setting or anywhere else. My health is my choice. And whether I choose to wear a mask or not should fall under that flag right there. I should be able to do it if I want.
I would like to invite 4 people this time to come down for public comment. Steve Arpin, Vivian Gonzalez, David Hurley, Michael Lindsay. One more time, Steve Arpin, Vivian Gonzalez, David Hurley, Michael Lindsay. Beginning with Mr. Arpin. Please wait till everybody comes down. All right, thank you. Please start with your name when you're ready.
My name is Steve Arpin. I live in North Asheville. The only involvement I've had with the school system is I was a volunteer math tutor for 3 years at Asheville Middle School. Maybe I should show this. This is a book, Virus Mania. It is written by doctors. One guy is a doctor. He has his PhD in biology. He was nominated for a Nobel Prize, so they know a little bit about what they're talking about. These viruses, the COVID-19, SARS, HIV, they have never been found. They only exist they're developed out of a software program. They take some liquid from someone's lungs, they attribute a certain genetic sequence to a virus, and then a software program generates the genome of the virus. They do not exist in reality. So that should be a concern. Here's a quote from a book, How Real is Real. A universal human problem is, after a long search and painful uncertainty, we finally believe we can explain a certain issue. The emotional commitment that we have made can be so large that we prefer to declare undeniable facts that contradict our explanation to be untrue or insubstantial, instead of adopting our explanation to these facts. That such retouching of reality could have considerable consequences for our adaptation to reality goes without saying. This is Paul Waltz-Awick from his book, How Real is Real. We're talking about the masks, not working, the viruses don't exist. There should be a relationship between our decision-making process and reality. It's important to have this relationship. And another thing, what concerns me, is that we're going down a road of taking away people's freedom to choose for themselves and their children. I've read 3 books on propaganda. I've studied Nazism. I have read From the Gulag to the Killing Fields. And I can see where we're going. There's this incremental effort to see how much people will put up with. If they can tell us what to do with our bodies, where will this stop? It won't stop until we say no.
Thank you, sir. Vivian Gonzalez is next. Please start with your name.
My name is Vivian, and I live in Asheville in the District of Freedom. My kids do not go to school. I took that power and control away from you. I decided to homeschool instead. That way you have no voice in what my kids can do. So I am here to fight and speak for those that do have to go to school, that don't have the choice of homeschooling or don't prefer to homeschool. You do not have the right or the power to tell us parents what we can do with our children. You all here made a decision whether to wear a mask or not to wear a mask. Our children and our parents have the right to choose as well. You all have been served with a stack of papers. I want to know why you are still sitting here. We want you out. Resigned or fired, you're out. Not voted out, but out. Today. You are criminals. Whoever votes to mask our children this school year, you're all criminals and should all be in jail for child abuse. And Churchill, I am so looking forward to seeing you behind bars. That's all I have to say.
David Hurley. Please start with your name.
David Hurley. I've got 4 kids that are homeschooled. All right, so here we are. We finally got into the building. So we should all give ourselves a round of applause on that one. It didn't have to be this hard, but now here we are again. So I'm going to remind you a little bit about the North Carolina Constitution once again. Section 1, the equality and rights of persons. We hold it to be self-evident that all persons are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the enjoyment of the fruits of their own labor, and the pursuit of happiness. Section 2 says, this is the big part, all political power is vested in and derived from the people. All government of right originates from the people, is founded upon their will only, and the really important part is it says, and is instituted solely for the good of the whole. Now, you held a special meeting this morning, and I don't know what made it so special, because these are the people that should have been deciding whether A or B was right. It says right here in section 2 that it comes from the people, and the people are here, and the people are speaking, and the people said that they want an option, but you're not giving them that. Instead, you waited until there were no people, and then you made your choice. Each and every one of you was elected as representatives, as public servants, and that's exactly what you are. You're nothing more. You're not officials. What should happen is that after this meeting, you guys should do a revote. This is very important because the people that have their kids' best interests at heart is the parents. And we've seen one stand up here and say that she believes in the vaccine, she believes in the mask, and she has every right to do that. And for everybody in this crowd that booed her, shame on y'all, because she does have the right to speak. We all have the right to make our decisions to say what's right for our kids. And when these people stand up here and they pour their hearts out, y'all need to be listening. And then you make a vote, not on what y'all have read or the data of some lady that one instance says 99% of the people are, goodbye.
Thank you, sir.
Michael Lindsay, please start with your name.
My name is Michael Lindsay. I live in Black Mountain, North Carolina. My daughter used to attend the Black Mountain school system, but we have taken her out of the school because of the indoctrination that we saw going on. And we put her in a school where there was no masking. Nobody got sick. None of the parents got sick. I understand, though, we're living in a time that I think as we all start to think about it is kind of prophesied. It's the time of the grand deception. And there's more deception going on in this world right now than there's ever been. Right at the top of that deception is a guy named Tony Fauci. There's a guy by the name of Kerry Mullis who said that Tony Fauci is a total fraud. But guess what? Kerry Mullis mysteriously or unexpectedly died right before the pandemic came out. He invented the PCR test. Mark Twain said it is easier to fool someone than it is to convince them they have been fooled. If you're still listening to the Communist News Network, the mostly satanic Nazi bullcrap, always bullcrap, or the communist BS, I'll leave that word out for the politeness of it all, but if you're still listening to that and think they're telling you the truth, then you have been deceived. Where should we go from here? First of all, we need to look to the Most High God and understand that this has been prophesied for a long time. How did I know Tony Fauci was a fraud from the first time he ever spoke? Because he didn't say one word about natural immunity. There is no virus, no disease, no anything ever in history where if you protect yourself, you take vitamin supplements, exercise, eat right, get out in the sunshine, vitamin D. Did you know that 90% of the people who died from COVID were vitamin D deficient? And they told you to stay inside. Does that not mean they're deceiving you? They are liars. mRNA vaccines have never, ever gotten through animal trials. You know why? Because all the animals die. They've been trying for 15 years to get mRNA vaccines approved, and guess how they got them approved this time? They said there was no treatment for COVID. Yet I knew of at least 6 different treatments that were proven to be 100% effective as of last summer. And every doctor who came forward and said that was silenced. Why? Why? You know who wants the kids masked? He's got horns. Because we are created in the image of God, and when you cover up the face of children, it says you would better put a millstone around your neck and jump in the ocean.
Madam Chair, this concludes those who've signed up for public comment this evening.
Thank you, sir. We will now move on to the next section of our agenda, which is the action agenda. We have, I think is Mr. Ball in the room? Are you going to speak to this? The action agenda, the first item on the agenda is the resolution in support of North Carolina High School Athletic Association. And at this... Thank you, Mr. Ball. Why don't you come on in and we'll see if the board has questions for you. Okay, are there questions from the board about this action agenda item? Mr. Bryant?
I don't have a question, Madam Chair. I was just going to make the motion that we approve the resolution as presented.
What am I going to do?
Yes, you can. You heard me, Don. You heard me.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have asked for you to maintain your decorum at this time, and I would appreciate that you continue to do that so that we can continue the business of the board.
Madam Chair, Don, I apologize. I should not have called your name and done that. I apologize for that. I should not have done that, and I'm sorry.
I think, Mr. Bryant, you are interested in making a motion that we approve this. Is that correct?
I did, Madam Chair. Thank you.
So that's a motion for. Do I get a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, and I will call the roll. Pat Bryant?
Aye.
Amy Churchill?
Aye.
Amanda Simpkins?
Aye.
Max Queen?
Aye.
Cindy McMahon?
Aye.
Peggy Buchanan?
Aye.
Ann Franklin? Aye. The next item on the action agenda is the guidelines for mask use and indoor athletics.
Madam Chair, I would like to make a motion that we allow indoor, sorry, give me just 1 second. For all indoor sports, that coaches and participants must wear masks in practice, but would have the option to lower them during intense practice activities. Volleyball coaches and participants would wear masks in matches except for those directly participating in the match. Assistant coaches and participants on the bench and not participating would be seated at least 3 feet apart and would be wearing masks. Head coaches and the 6 participants for volleyball actively participating in the match would have the option to not wear a mask during the active competition part of the match.
That's your motion?
Yes.
And you're looking for a second. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Has a second. Is there discussion about this item?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
This is Cindy McMahon.
Ms. Simpkins, you mentioned in the beginning of your motion that this applied to all indoor sports, but then you specifically said volleyball. So can you just clarify that, please?
Yes, sorry, in this wording, it said 6 participants, but in volleyball's the only one with 6 participants, so I think the wording would be head coaches and any participants actively participating in the match would have the option to not wear a mask during the active competition part of the match or game or whatever verbiage for that particular sport.
Does that clarify that for you, Ms. McMahon?
Yes, thank you.
Uh-huh. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I just wanted to clarify once more, Mr. Ball, you were saying that right now the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services will still quarantine individuals for exposures given their guidelines, regardless of wearing masks by individuals or vaccines in athletics. Correct. I'm still a little, that's the, okay, thank you. So not the North Carolina DHSS. Okay, thank you. And then I believe the other thing that I had asked you about was, so I believe that the next thing that I had asked you, and again, just to make sure that I'm understanding, that you might be able to hear me if you'd zip your lips, sir. Thank you. Mr. Ball?
Lady? Shall I?
Mr. Ball,
Order.
Do we currently have the...
Okay, I call for a recess. Thank you. Item on the agenda for consideration is the guidelines for mask use for indoor athletics, and I've asked Dr. Baldwin to speak to that.
Just for the board's sake and for the public, just try to bring back and tie in the key parts of that discussion, and then from my standpoint, give the board certainly my encouragement to vote and approve this. Mrs. Churchill made, I think, a very good point that we need to be aware of as a board. And we had an excellent representative from the volleyball coaches in Buncombe County that was here tonight that spoke and brought forth some what I believe to be some very valid points. With that said, just a reminder that athletics, and this is not only for Buncombe County, but this was one of the highlighted areas of primary concern that came out of the ABC Science Collaborative. And you've heard me reference that. That is the Duke University, UNC Chapel Hill collaboration. They're recognized nationally. They received data from every school system in the state this year per legislative requirement. And they, in their study, clearly identified this as a key area for issues that will come forward with quarantines and with isolation. So we just need to be aware of that. We've also spoke on numerous occasions regarding the social emotional benefits that come from our athletics, from our arts, from our extracurriculars, our ROTC program we talk a lot about. They're very much needed. So this is again, we need to support that, in my opinion, as your superintendent, strongly, but let's recognize that this will be an area that we'll constantly have to monitor. And with that said, again, I would encourage this board to vote Ms. Simpkins' motion to approve that. I think it makes excellent sense in terms of just the health and safety of our athletes in the indoor sports.
Thank you, Dr. Baldwin. Now, refresh my memory. Do I have a motion and a second?
You do.
I do. So now I'm going to call for the vote. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. Pat Bryant?
Aye.
Amy Churchill?
No.
Amanda Simpkins?
Aye.
Max Queen?
Aye.
Cindy McMahon?
Aye.
Peggy Buchanan? Aye. Ann Franklin? Aye. Motion passes. At this time on the agenda, I have the information agenda, and these are policies for first reading. It would be Policy 1510, 4200, and 7270, school safety. Policy 3230, 7330, copyright compliance. Policy 4270, 6145, concussion and head injury. Policy 5000, schools and the community. And Policy 9020, facility design. Thank you for that piece of information. Our next meeting will be September the 2nd with a work session and updates and closed session beginning at 4 in the executive conference room, and open session beginning at 5:30 in the Minotaurium. At this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Second.
Thank you. And I need to call the roll. Pat Bryant?
Aye.
Amy Churchill?
Aye.
Amanda Simpkins?
Aye.
Max Queen?
Aye.
Cindy McMahon?
Aye.
Peggy Buchanan? Aye. Ann Franklin? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.